Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
How you doing?
Good. So one of our lovely viewers has sent me a link to a very simple to make iron golem farm.
Oh yeah, I got that too.
So
I didn't look at it though. I saw it.
It's really simplistic, and he even says, "Thanks, buffers." Even says it takes the hardest part is getting the 3 villagers that you need for it. So I was just gonna kind of fly around and see if there's any villages close that still have villagers in them that we can transport around here.
He sent it to me on Discord. How did he send it to you?
Yeah, on Discord.
Wow, you saw it.
I mean, I just stopped paying attention to you guys on Discord. You get boring.
Wow. I don't believe you. Discord you're like the old man of Discord.
I am. The problem with Discord is I just don't have it on all the time. Like, it's on this computer all the time, but I'm on my work computer a lot, and I can't get to it from work or anything like that. So I usually sit on.
Why don't you put it on your phone?
Why the hell would I want to have my phone going off constantly for?
No. You don't. My phone never goes off. You don't have it where it's like giving you like text notifications or something.
What would I do with it?
You could open it occasionally and look at it like you do Twitter. Do you ever do that for?
No. Nope.
Okay. All right.
Well. And I've never looked at somebody's Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Ever?
I can't say ever. I probably clicked on somebody's once, but it's definitely not in my rotation of things that I look at by any means. And that's why with Twitter, even when I was trying to get really heavy into Twitter, because it was like, granted, Twitter's still popular, but there was a point when it was, way bigger than it was, and everybody had Twitters, and that's what they were trying to really popularize and use all the time. I would be following a bunch of people and still not get notifications or enough to really keep up with them. Like, even if I had all the settings to be like, send me everything to do with this person, and I just don't know what I had set up wrong in it. So I just never got into it.
It seems like, the problem is clearly you. But it seems like...
What are you saying here? I'm not the common thread. Bad UIs are the common thread.
Yeah,
I swear.
It seems like anything that's ordered in a list blows your damn mind. Because like Reddit was the same way. Here's a list.
And now I'm all about Reddit. Like, now I get Reddit. Reddit is the thing.
Jesus Christ. I don't understand you.
Oh my God. Man, I just circled around all the way back to these pirate ships and back to the main island so quick I didn't realize that we were here. Or we were so close. Like, I knew we were so close, but I mean, I'm just like over complete civilization now, and I've been flying for like 5 rockets. In circles, looking for just something close.
Yeah, we didn't branch out far this season.
No, and still nobody visits us.
Well, no one's on the server to visit us, Jeff. Why is there a elytra and a... I guess Brian maybe brought you an elytra.
Oh, did he really?
I don't know. There's an elytra over here in an item frame that says "Don't lose me."
Oh,
but I guess
he might have.
Yeah. It's okay, Brian. Things happen between recordings.
That's nice, though. I appreciate.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
It's a good guy. He'll probably take it back.
Not somehow. If I lose it first.
Off your back. He'll rip it off your back while you're in the middle of the air. And just fall to your death.
Now that I've got myself looped around our own island, I was just admiring all the work from above. Now I don't remember which direction we actually are from here.
There's definitely villagers under the island over there, but I feel like you don't want to take those. Those are like OG villagers.
I passed when I was flying the other day just to go look for caves and stuff. I passed like a bunch of different villages that are there. So I know they're there. I'm just trying to find ones that are relatively close to where we can try to transport. I feel it's not going to be too difficult to find something. Not when I go back to our island. So I'm just going to go look for the portal back. Easiest way.
I have a question.
Go on.
Do you remember Waco?
Yes. That's really ironic that you would bring that up today. Only because I was listening to the radio this morning, and now that a lot of the local radio stations, they stream on the internet and things like that. So people who have lived in this area will move to other places and still listen to like the morning shows and still call in with certain topics. And one guy called in today and said he had just moved to Texas, and that's where the host of the guy who runs the morning show is from here. And he was like, "Oh, where to?" And he's like, "Oh, I live in Waco." And I was like, "Man, that's a place I haven't heard of in a long time," because of Waco, Texas, back in the day.
Yeah, it's really weird that that it became associated with Waco, because they weren't living in Waco, the city limits or anything like that. Like, I don't understand why the whole Branch Davidian compound got associated with Waco. I mean, that was on their address, but like, I mean, that's not even a small place. It's got a population of in the 90s, whenever the whole Branch Davidian thing happened, it had a population of 112,000 people. And there was only 200 of those in the Branch Davidian compound. So, like, why the hell did all of Waco get a bad name?
I mean, I don't even know if Waco got a bad name because of it. It's just what I associate with it, because it just happened in Waco, Texas. So every time it was just like, what's happening in Waco? I didn't associate like, oh my God, everybody who lives in Waco is in a freaking cult. It was just like, David Koresh was Cult Man.
Right.
But why do you bring it up, ironically, today?
I was always bothered by the overuse of the federal government's abuse of power with Waco. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I recently watched a documentary on it this week and was re-angered. I was always very angry with how Waco was handled. So I'm more of a Waco sympathizer than David Koresh is a terrible cult man kind of person.
Interesting.
I was just curious if you remembered that.
I remember. So, God, it happened in. When the hell was
92?
it? Like, I was, pretty young.
So you were in your teens, probably, maybe.
No,
close to.
I was 11.
Okay, yeah, but you were getting there.
Yeah, I was definitely getting to my teens at 11. Yes,
you were old enough to watch the new. So maybe
okay, Chris Hansen, come on out from behind that goose.
No, you were old enough to watch the. I guess so. I lived very close to Waco when this all happened, so it was right down the street from where I lived in Texas.
You hung out at the compound, and I got you.
No, I wasn't one of the Branch Davidians, but I lived close enough that like it was kind of like local news basically. So maybe I paid more attention because of that. But back then, I mean, the way that it was portrayed, these people were horrible people. They were basically terrorists. And then all the research I've done post fact is opposite of that. Like, they really should have been left alone.
So, refresh me on. I thought David Koresh had like a bunch of wives and was like.
He was a polygamist.
Grooming children for.
There's no evidence that he was grooming children, but his first wife was underage. So there is, but he did follow the legal. So I don't agree with this. This is not. I don't agree with. I'm not like a big fan of David Koresh or like agree with everything that he stood for or did. I'm more on the line of the government overstepped its bounds and should not have gone in with the force they went in with. But if you research it, so to answer your question, David Koresh was married to someone. They got married, I believe, whenever they met when she was 14. I believe they didn't marry until she was 16. I'm not 100% on those facts, but he did have signed consent from the parents. So he was legally married to someone underage. Okay. I don't agree with this either.
Just but legal in the state of Texas at the time.
Right. Okay. But polygamy is not legal in the state of Texas, and he did have multiple wives. So again, this is also another thing I don't agree with. Like, I'm not a big David Koresh fanboy, and I don't agree. I don't think that loophole should exist where your parents can give consent for marriage even when you're underage. Like, that's just, I mean, to me that's no better than these arranged marriages that you see in other countries. So yeah, that's not something I'm agreeing with. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that he stood for or was a part of or any of these sort of things. It's just some of these things are, to me, were a problem when it came to the government's choice of how they handled the situation. Especially if you do the research on like how local government had dealt with Mount Carmel and the Branch Davidians throughout history. So what happened was that the FBI and the ATF had just recently left from Ruby Ridge. You familiar with Ruby Ridge?
No. It sounds like familiar, and I should know something about it, but I don't.
I think his name was Weaver. Hold on, I have to look it up. Let me look up the man's name so I get some of these facts straight. Um, but he was a former Green Beret that that had holed up in Idaho. I think it was Idaho, Bridge, Idaho. Hold on, let me just get all this. Kevin Harris. No, Randy Weaver. Randy Weaver. Yeah, it was Randy Weaver. Began August 21st when Randy Weaver, members of his immediate family, and family friend Kevin Harris resisted deputies in the United States Marshal Services and a hostage team where they were at in the Ruby Ridge area. But ATF fucked up and shot his son in the original raid, and someone else. So then the FBI was called in. Ruby Ridge ended basically okay. A sniper accidentally took out his wife as well when they were trying to shoot Randy Weaver. But again, this was another situation where it was just handled poorly, and like it didn't have to go down the way it went down. Like these people did not, no one needed to die here. He wasn't a threat to anyone. In the end, years later, his family received $3.3 million for the mishandling of it. But the reason why this is important for Waco is Ruby Ridge all happened right before Waco. And after the Waco drama happened, the United States government was looking into how ATF handles things, and did the FBI mismanage the situation and that sort of thing, because they were getting sued and whatnot. And so they were looking for a win, and that's where Waco comes in, because they got a report of illegal firearms. There was a box of grenade casings that were on their way to Waco, and they got intercepted by the UPS or USPS or FedEx. One of those ones intercepted these grenades. It got grenade casings. It got reported, and so they started looking into Waco, like what's going on in this compound. There was reports of child abuse and that sort of stuff too. Like, are any of these true? That sort of thing. And so they were like, well, let's go in here and handle this situation to prove that we're still necessary. The ATF, the FBI, all of this. And they went in and bungled this fucking thing all up too, basically. But the same hostage negotiation was present at both. And he's gone on record as well after the fact and said both were grossly mishandled, both Waco and Ruby Ridge. Because, in Waco, they basically killed everybody in the end.
Right. Didn't everybody start killing themselves at first too?
So not at first. Whenever the whole compound caught on fire, 20 of them commit suicide when everything's burning down. But they didn't believe they could leave. Because so whenever ATF showed up at Waco, they showed up unannounced, basically. That's typical for a raid. There's nothing shocking about this. But they showed up unannounced, and David went outside to talk to them, and he opens the door. Their dogs come out, and ATF opens fire. They shoot the dogs, and they shoot David as well. And they filled the whole compound with fucking bullets. And so Waco, the Branch Davidians responded by opening fire as well. And so, like, this to me goes back to our amendment on the right to carry arms. I know they had illegal firearms, right? So, like, they were breaking the law with their illegal firearms. They had modified firearms. So that is true. They broke the law there. But like, don't we have the right to defend ourselves? Like, what do you do? This is kind of what I want to talk about. What do you do when the government is assaulting you? Like, who do you call? What are you supposed to do?
I think that is a current problem with police brutality and things like that. I mean, look at all these people who are getting killed, and then they're getting killed for completely, like the guy who had the cigarette on New York Street, who was selling singles, and why did I just make that? And he got held in that illegal police choke,
right?
And he died. And it was all about selling cigarettes, and he died. And they did the investigation, and we were like, we don't see any wrongdoing.
Yeah, so that brings me to what I'm actually watching right now. After this, I watched a documentary. So I watched the Waco documentary recently. I don't know why. It just pissed me off. Re-brought me back to all the things that I was angry about the situation in the past. But then tonight I started watching a documentary on the 92 LA riots, because it got brought up in my Discord a couple of days ago that one person's opinion was that race relations have not improved since 1993, because we were talking about, I brought up the Waco thing, and it got brought up that like this doesn't happen to white people anymore. Basically, it only happens to black people. And like they said, well, a lot's changed since 1993 to 2020. and it's of my opinion that I think racism has gotten better, but I don't know. I'm not in a situation where I experience it. You know what I'm saying? So I can't say for sure. I think it's gotten better, but I mean, what do I know?
See, now we got into the thing, and my wife is just as guilty. Like, because, and maybe it's me though, because maybe I don't get it. And she actually just posted something the other day, and it was about this exact thing, and it was all the white protesters with guns in the Michigan Capitol.
Right. And that's actually probably why I got brought up in my Discord as well, because the same response is not being given to these people as black protesters.
Right. And that's what the whole concept says. And it says it. I understand why it says it. So it's so hard to talk about this without somebody getting offended at you, because yes, I get it. If you traditionally would look at that and it was a bunch of black people, most likely bullets would have been fired from police.
Maybe not like bullets, at least not at first. Or
some
there would have been like a hose would have been brought out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand that, yes, looking at what has happened in history, it is very easy to think that, and very logical to think that it would have gone that way. I'm not saying it's illogical at all. But it didn't. And it's possible if it was a bunch of black people or a bunch of mixed people, like, you know, mixed races. I don't mean like one person who's more than one race. A bunch of people of different races there and there, or people of completely mixed race. It doesn't matter. It's very possible it also could have happened and the same response would have gone down. I couldn't tell you the likelihood of that. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me there's absolutely 0% chance that, but you can't take away the possibility of it happen, no matter, even if you think it's not very likely. But you also don't know what was going through those people's minds who were the officers in charge, if they would have thought differently of it, if it was colored people. You don't know what they personally would have thought in that situation. But my wife always brings up this concept and tells me how I cannot understand white privilege.
Right. And that's kind of what the argument was in the Discord, was that white people can't decide how good racism is going and how has it been improved or not. And so my response to that was, well, there's got to be statistics, right? Like there's got to be statistics on police brutality, Jesus Christ, and that sort of thing. And the response to that was, you can't believe those statistics. You can only believe those opinions of those affected. And while I do hold that there's a lot of weight with the police of the people that are affected by this, and I believe that their opinions are obviously more valid than anything else, I can't find any data on that. And that's what I asked for, because one of the people was like, well, I've read books about this, and unfortunately none of his books were published in the last 20 some years. So like there's no, as far as I can find, there's no current data on the people's opinion that are old enough to have been present in the 90s and now as well. Because I mean, you can't talk to someone in their 20s about how race relations have improved because they weren't alive back then. So like,
and you're going to get a lot of hate, and I'm not saying it's warranted at all, from people who are saying just the fact that you are white, you can't talk about this now because you have white privilege and therefore you don't understand.
Right.
And I
right. Well, no, and I don't disagree with that either.
I do disagree with that. I do understand that there's a such thing called white privilege. I get it. I don't think it means that we can't understand or have a conversation about how we feel if things have changed from our personal perspectives. And I feel that that's all it has ever gone to with people who start going down this path. Is there's people who just tell me I'm basically not allowed to talk about it because I'm white.
Okay, so I don't agree with that. I agree that it's possible that as a white person we'll never understand what it's like for someone of another color and the oppression that they have. I do think that
I absolutely agree with that.
But I think that by telling people that are white they can't have this conversation, that's ignorant. Like, you should never stop anyone from having a conversation.
And I will correct it. It's not stopping to have the conversation. It's stopping to have the conversation unless your conversation is saying that you don't understand because you have white privilege.
Well, that's also ignorant, because there should be an attempt to understand.
I agree. I absolutely agree. My wife also is the one that tries to, she knows she does this more of a joke, but she didn't start doing this as a joke. She would basically tell me I was mansplaining to her when it's just something that I happen to be like, it was something about a career that I've had in the past. So I know what I'm talking about in that field, but me describing that to her was mansplaining. And I'm like, that's not how this works, right?
Right. Just because you're a man.
Just because I'm a man doesn't mean it's mansplaining. I have more expertise in the field that we're talking about. Therefore, it doesn't make it mansplaining.
Right. Yeah.
That was more of a joke. But the white privilege thing, she gets really, really, really mad about. Because she thinks that I'm completely ignorant and can't understand the fact that I don't accept that I have white privilege. And I'm like, I do accept that I have white privilege. But that somehow means I'm not allowed to have an opinion that everything has happened to me is because of white privilege, essentially. And my wife is white, for anybody who wants to know. She just, right. I think there's a group of people that take it off the deep end too far. They realize that there's been all this terrible stuff that's happened in the past to people of color, which is very true. There has been a lot of that bad stuff that's happened to those people in the past. There's also been that stuff that's happened to white people, just much less. But you're giving an example of one now with David Koresh and all that stuff. I'm not trying to put them together. I'm just saying there's been violence against groups of white people and things like that too. I'm not trying to say that makes it equal by any means. Don't anybody try to misquote me in that way. But just to say that you can never have a conversation about it because you'll never ever understand because everything I've gotten in my life is because of white privilege is fucked up.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I guess like I said, the topic we had in the Discord was, have things improved since 93 or whatever, whenever the whole Waco thing went down in terms of how black people are treated by the government or by police force or any of those things. And one person's opinion was that these were all white people speaking too, by the way. Well, one of them was, opinion was that it has improved, and others is that it hasn't improved at all. It's only gotten worse. I don't actually know what the answer. I don't know what's true. I don't know if things have gotten better or worse, honestly.
Well, and I guess it's funny because you'd want to say that because things are so much more available now that we think we've seen like this downtrend because people know things are out there and things like that. But at the same time, it might have been like very mediocre before, and now it's out there and it's actually 10 times worse than before and just looks 10 times worse than before. I have no idea. Because you didn't see it back then.
Right. I mean, yeah, like the whole...
But the whole Rodney King shit was like, you were talking about the L.A.? That was all sorts of fucked up, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I remember it from my childhood because it was everywhere. It was all over the news. But again, we were 11. It was 1992 when Rodney King was beat. The police officers, the 4 that were tried, had their trial in April of 94, and they were all decided not guilty, and that's what led to the LA riots. Again, a lot of this I vaguely remember it all from being a child, and so watching this documentary on it right now, I'm not even done with it. I'm halfway through it. I'm at the point basically where the riots are starting to happen, but I didn't realize that there was a change of venue that happened in the courts where they went out of LA and went to the neighboring county to the north where the population was 90% white. And so the jury that decided the fate of the police officers that beat Rodney King were all white. There was 10 people on the jury. 8 of them were white. 1 was Hispanic and 1 was Asian. There was not a single black person even on the damn jury. So I think like even that decision alone was like a huge mistake to change the venue. And I guess it's a jury of the cops' peers, but I don't know. Seems like that was a lot of mistakes were made there.
Yeah, sure. Well, and that guy who just got released from his 6th death sentence, Curtis Fields. I read listened to a podcast about like all these actual innocence, I think was the podcast it was called, and it was people who'd been put on like life sentences or death row and actually proven innocent, and it talked about this guy Curtis Fields. He has been prosecuted. At the time, he was on his like 5th life sentence or his 5th death sentence or something like that, and he kept having his appeals happen, and he would get overturned. And he got put at the end of the podcast. He had gotten out for his 5th one, and he got retried a 6th time and got proven guilty again and was in jail. And he just like a month ago got his appeal granted and that verdict overturned again. And it's the same trial because the verdict just keeps getting overturned. So it goes back to trial. And the same prosecutor just keeps saying, "Oh, fuck you, we're going to try you again." And it's the whole thing is all about jury tampering and you know, making sure that there's only white people on this jury because it's against a black guy. And this dude was like, it's been 26 years at this point. He's been in jail. In and out of jail for a crime he most likely did not commit. 6 times he's been tried and convicted and appealed and won.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this recently, actually, and I'd never heard of him before that. But that's just absurd. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense.
Oh no, it's all sorts of like messed up too, and so yes, I get that, you know, people of color have definitely gotten a completely not fair shake throughout history. I get that. I still think as a white person, I'm allowed to have an opinion, and everything that's happened to me isn't because of white privilege.
No, but I mean, there's probably are things that have.
Oh, absolutely. I will. There's also a male privilege thing that I have going for me. I absolutely feel that I got into Georgetown for nursing school and got my scholarship and got some of the jobs that I wanted because they weren't hiring people in the emergency department. All of a sudden, like from my group, all of a sudden they were going to interview some people, let us in. And I was one of 2 people who got a job in the emergency department as a male, but they weren't going to hire anybody in there. You know, I'm sure being a male had something to do with that because...
You think that's a male in the nursing industry thing?
Yes, absolutely. When I was a male in IT, I was overlooked for many things, you know. Women were definitely like promoted higher in that category at the time because they were really trying to, you know, close a gender gap and things like that. But the gender gap's the opposite way in the nursing field.
Right.
So I do have a little bit of male privilege that I can take advantage of in this field. And yes, there's a lot of male privilege that exists as well. I get it. But there's a lot of jobs where male privilege actually doesn't help in.
Like what?
Like IT. I think it's male dominated, but I do think a lot of females end up, maybe it's changed since I was in the IT field, but there was a lot of females they were purposely trying to get because they were really trying to show a female IT workforce. Maybe it was just the company I worked for too. I have no idea.
Right.
So there was less of them to choose from, but they basically had, like in the program that I was in, it was you got to, for 3 years after college, you got to tour different departments at this company that I was in. You had a year stint at each department, and then you found out which one you were going to be in forever. So it was almost like an extended internship, but you were getting paid like full wages, and it was so you would understand the company, how big it was, how it worked. They felt that made a long-term better employee for the people who stayed there for life, which is a great philosophy. But you could see all the women always got their first choice of placement,
right,
for the IT sector, and it was a big thing that was always talked about. That you're going up for these 3 women for this job. Better start looking at your second and third choices of which one you want this next term because you're not going to get it.
Right.
I'm not saying that women are for the most part it's better to be a woman than a man in the workforce. I definitely think workforces are still male dominated. There's still definitely male heavy top of companies and promotion ladders and things like that. But there's certain industries it's not the same.
I wonder what the most male dominated profession in the United States is.
Male stripper.
Oh, yep, you got it. You hit it. You won. Yeah. Huh. I wonder what percentage of politicians are male to female.
Oh, probably like 95.
Yeah, it's got to be high, right?
Yeah, I would definitely think so. I mean, the concept that a woman being president almost happened for the first time tells you that, right?
Right.
It hasn't even happened yet. It almost happened.
Yeah, right.
I didn't realize how, there's a lot of these bad guys. I found a village that's relatively close, but it's close via water, so you can ride like shotgun in a boat now, right?
Yeah, you can grab a villager and stick him in the boat.
I'm gonna try to do, but it's nighttime, so I'm waiting for it to go day. But man, these sea monsters are bad.
I'm dealing with phantoms myself, so I need to take a nap myself.
Apparently, you can't try to ride in a boat. You can't shoot in a boat, I guess. But I guess these guys can't hit me in the boat either. So
you could shoot an arrow, a bow.
I'm trying to shoot the arrow, but it just keeps going through them. So I don't know if it's the hitbox of the boat that's really screwing with that. I have to get far away from them to actually hit them with an arrow. Otherwise, it goes through them. But apparently, they can't hit me in the boat if I just sit in the water anyway. So they're like tapping.
Yeah, boats are pretty jacked up. Yeah. Like I've noticed that when we do UHCs, the patrons, the boats are just a problem basically.
Just throw out that trident straight in the air. Is it going to kill me? Can you hit yourself with the trident?
Probably. You can stuff with an arrow.
I just don't know if is it enough power to kill me.
Probably not. No, they don't hit very hard.
That's true. Couldn't even kill the zombies I was aiming at. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts you though, but not much. But I mean, it does cause damage.
Well, we probably should wrap this episode up here. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time if you ever want to watch us again after our white male privilege episode.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.